If you're setting up an LLC, there's a good chance you're making at least one of these 8 costly mistakes. Mistakes that could cause you to be personally liable, maybe even an IRS audit, or maybe cause your business to completely fail. I'm Jeff Hampton, asset protection lawyer and author of the best-selling book, Investor's Blueprint, Asset Protection Made Simple. And in this video, I'm breaking down the 8 costly LLC mistakes that most people make and how you can avoid them. Because one wrong move could cost you everything. So let's dive in. Mistake number 1, filing your LLC in the wrong state. I have heard so many entrepreneurs, business owners, as well as real estate investors claim that as long as they set up an LLC in a preferable state like Delaware, Wyoming, or maybe Nevada, then they'll get better tax benefits or maybe they'll have better asset protection. First of all, those are usually just myths. For the most part, setting up an LLC by itself doesn't give you any type of asset protection other than where your business or your property is located. The reason why is because if you have a property or a business in, say, California, California law is going to apply if you end up in litigation, and you only have as much protection as your state's LLC. But let's say you live in California, but you want to set up a Wyoming LLC for your business because you think it will protect you. The problem is it doesn't work that way. Number one, you don't get any extra tax benefits just because you set up an LLC, because most LLCs are passed through for tax treatment. But secondly, that Wyoming LLC, you're not doing any business in Wyoming. So as a result, California law will still control, your California judge will apply California law, and you'll still be stuck with the same result even though you set up a foreign LLC. And that's the real reason why this is a mistake, because you don't get any asset protection, but now you have to register a foreign entity, a foreign LLC in your home state because you've chosen an out-of-state LLC. Foreign LLCs are a huge mistake because now you have to take care of 2 registered agent fees, your home state where you're located, as well as the foreign state where you set up the LLC. It also requires more hassle because you have to meet all of the reporting requirements for each state laws, and it's just really not worth it. The solution here? It's simple. Set up an LLC in the state where you're running your business if you're an entrepreneur, or set up an LLC in the state where your rental property is located if you're running a rental property business. Keep it simple when you're trying to set up your basic level LLC. Now, there is a question many people will have is they'll say, but what if I live in a state that has very poor laws? We'll cover in a minute how you can make sure and still have better asset protection. But for now, it's important to understand setting up an LLC that's not located in the state where you're at doesn't provide you any real benefit. Mistake number 2, using the wrong address on your LLC filings. Here's the problem. People have a tendency to put their P.O. box, maybe even their home address, or even their registered agent's address without their permission, and that creates a real problem. If you use your home address, in most states, you're making this public record to everyone that you're the one running your LLC. And if you use your P.O. box, watch out, because many states will not accept a P.O. box as your principal place of business, so that can end up being an invalid filing. The solution? Use a virtual office address or a physical office if you can. And be careful, never list your registered agent's address as your business address unless you have an agreement with them to do so. This is all extremely important because many states have very strict guidelines as to what address is permissible to validate an LLC filing. Mistake number 3, not using a valid professional registered agent. In order to have a valid LLC filing, you must list a registered agent. But that registered agent must be available during regular business hours in order to accept legal documents. If whoever you list as your registered agent is not available, or maybe they're not even legitimate because you used a different address and you miss critical legal paperwork, it could cost you immensely. The solution? Hire a corporate registered agent service or use your law firm that you hire to serve in this role. In order to maintain compliance on your LLC, you have to make sure you have a valid registered agent service so that you don't miss any legal notices in case you get sued. Mistake number 4, messing up your LLC S-corp election. You see it all over the internet and people talk about it all the time. If you set up your LLC as an S-corp election, you can save more in self-employment taxes so that you pay less to the government. The problem is people go wrong in 2 ways here. Number 1, they start off filing their S-corp election from the very beginning when they didn't really need one. For example, I've seen real estate investors do this, where they've heard this idea that you save in self-employment taxes, so they decide to actually set up an S-corp and they put rental property into it. Now they've actually converted passive income into active income, and if they ever go to sell their rental real estate, they're going to pay a tremendous amount extra in taxes that could have been avoided. The other reason you may not need to set up an S-corp is if you're a brand new business and you're not making much money, you're going to now have to file an extra tax return, and you're going to have to pay your actual accountant quite a bit more money around tax time. It may not be necessary. The second way people mess this up is that they actually set up their S-corp before they're making enough money to benefit from it. You need to always consult with an accountant, a real CPA here that knows what they're doing, and find out, because there's normally a threshold where you need to be making well into the six figures in your business before it's ever really worth it to set up an S-corp when you consider all the tax filings you'll have on tax day. Mistake number 5, I've set up my LLC and now I can forget about it. This is one of the most common mistakes I see people make. They set up their LLC and maybe they did it on their own. They get their certificate of formation, they've got their articles of organization, everything's good to go, and they think they're done. They don't think they need to do anything else. In fact, many people skip critical steps that completely throw away all the protection you would have on your LLC. Things like getting an EIN number, setting up a specific business banking account, and actually following the corporate formalities that are required by your state's LLC laws. So here are the steps you must take when setting up a valid LLC. Number 1, get an EIN number from the IRS. Number 2, open a dedicated business bank account with that EIN number. Number 3, you need to maintain corporate formalities. Keep annual meeting minutes. Make sure you file your annual reports as needed and never commingle funds. And then finally, number 4, sign an operating agreement that is drafted, laying out exactly how you do business. Speaking of operating agreements, that brings us to mistake number 6. Failing to have an operating agreement with your LLC. The operating agreement is perhaps one of the most important parts of an LLC if you're looking for asset protection. It's what I call the rules for the relationship for the entire business. It lays out who gets profits. It lays out who manages the business, who's responsible for different things. If you don't have an actual valid operating agreement, you haven't actually established what the purpose of your business is and who's responsible for it. In fact, if you ever want to go get a loan or actually grow the business, most places are going to want to see that operating agreement because that's what provides an LLC its legitimacy. There's generally 2 main ways that you can set up your operating agreement. One is if you are a single member LLC, then you can set it up where you have a pretty templatized structure and you can keep it simple. But if you're in a multi-member LLC, maybe you've got partners, or maybe you're running a business with multiple people involved, it's important that you're very careful how you draft that operating agreement. Because if you don't get advice from an attorney about protecting your interests, that operating agreement, if there's a conflict in the future, will control. And if you didn't draft it properly, you could be on the outside looking in to your own business. Mistake number 7, messing up your business contracts. One of the biggest mistakes I see every day with new business owners and rental property owners when it comes to signing contracts is they will sign a contract in their own personal name and not in the name of their LLC. Think about it. If you sign under your own personal name, it puts you on the hook personally if something goes wrong. The solution? Always list your LLC as the contracting party in any contract you sign. You can sign your contract exactly like this: your LLC name, comma, by your name, comma, title, managing member. Mistake number 8, missing important compliance deadlines for your LLC. This kind of resembles the set it up and forget it mistake we talked about earlier. But many people set up an LLC and they don't even think about the fact that their state has all of these requirements for compliance. For example, you need to know if your state requires you to file an annual report. Is there a franchise tax in your particular state that you have to fill out a form for? If you don't know this information, you can end up paying hefty fines and it could end up invalidating your LLC. So think about it. If you miss an important deadline or requirement, and the state invalidates your LLC, it could end up invalidating big transactions like property deed transactions because your LLC was invalid at the time. Sure, you can always reinstate your LLC, but that comes with hefty penalties. And if something terrible happens during that period of time, like a member passes away, there is no real easy fix. So, how do you avoid disaster? You need to make sure and calendar all important state deadlines for all of your LLCs and update all of your records with the Secretary of State as well as your registered agent. So there you have it. Get organized. Follow these requirements we've talked about here in this video, and you can avoid the 8 biggest mistakes when it comes to setting up your LLC. Now, maybe you're looking to set up an LLC, but it's going to be a single member LLC. Did you know that not all single member LLCs are created equal? Check out this next video where I break down 5 of the biggest mistakes people make when setting up single member LLCs and how you can avoid them. See you over there.